So though it may be Tuesday, we've already been treated to a lot in terms of exciting news, both out the transfer portal and in terms of recruiting news, where yesterday the Georgia Bulldogs got a massive win for not only the number one quarterback in the nation, but the number one available player in the class of 2024, Dylan Raiola. But Georgia was not the only SEC team adamant on getting a big-time win in the recruiting department yesterday, as Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers get a huge win in keeping four-star athlete Juwan Johnson in the state of Louisiana, something we've got to break down today. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you excited that Johnson committed to play to LSU? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content and you don't want to miss any of it. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small. They are massive to content creators such as myself, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And Juwan Johnson is someone we've talked about here on the channel before several times. We talked about him whenever he had committed to Colorado, and one of the points I had made then is that it's very difficult to walk into the state of Louisiana if you're a college located outside the state and get a win for some of these blue chip prospects, especially if LSU has been hot on their trail. So whenever Juwan Johnson had decommitted from Colorado, I was really interested to see what happens next. One thing we have got to realize as we talk about recruiting in the present day is that recruiting is a 24/7, 365 endeavor. What I mean is you're always recruiting. Not only are you always recruiting the guys already committed to your class, you're recruiting the guys that are actively on your roster with the existence of the transfer portal now. So I had no doubt that Brian Kelly and LSU would maintain communication with Juwan Johnson. There's a lot to like about this guy. Whenever you turn on the film, he's a guy that can do it all. And it almost brought back a memory from the movie Friday Night Lights, where Boobie Miles' father turns around and says, and he can throw the ball. Because whenever you watch Juwan Johnson play, there's not much he can't do. In the state of Louisiana, for his team, he played quarterback, where he amassed just shy of 4,000 yards through the air, just under 45 touchdowns, and on top of that, added in 1,284 yards on the ground and 17 touchdowns on the ground. And he looks to play college football as a defensive back. So this guy has got a ton of ability and a ton of versatility, which is the name of the game in modern college football. If you can get a guy with this level of versatility, you do so, because in theory, if you're LSU, if you have a need elsewhere, you might be able to move this guy around. He clearly has the athletic ability to do a lot of things at a high level. So this is a big-time win for LSU and Brian Kelly. But what does it mean for their class? Well, Juwan Johnson is, like I said, a blue-chip prospect, a top 300 player in the nation, specifically coming in as number 267 regardless of position. This gives LSU their 15th commitment and puts them as the number 5 recruiting class in the nation. And one thing we've just come to expect as we observe college football is that LSU is going to be a team that recruits at a really high level. They always seem to do so year in, year out. The state of Louisiana is very talent-rich, and they don't have a lot of competition from other teams within the state for that talent. And especially when you're Brian Kelly and you're coming off of the year, you're coming off of the level of intrigue, the level of excitement, the level of curiosity around the Tigers, it's at a level that's very high. And I'm excited to see what it means going forward. Because if LSU goes out there and has another successful season, watch out. This is a team that already recruits at a really high level, and it can only go up from here. Brian Kelly is an individual that has known success within college football. He has recruited successfully within college football, and now he has access to a massive brand in a state absolutely loaded with talent. So this is a huge win for LSU. I don't think there's any understating that. Juwan Johnson is a guy that can do it all, and Robert Steeples has been on an absolute tear ever since being named the cornerback coach for the Tigers. When we look at it, Steeples exemplifies one of the things I talk about on the channel. If you can get a guy that played college football, it's going to be awesome if you can get him on your coaching staff. It's even better if that guy also has NFL experience, because the goal for so many of these players is the NFL. And so whenever you can get a coach on your staff that's a great coach, but also has the legitimacy of being able to look at these players and say, hey, I know what you're going through. I was sitting where you were sitting not long ago. I had a college coach in here recruiting me, recruiting my family, and then I made the transition from high school football to college football. A transition that is incredibly difficult to make. There are so many other aspects that go into that transition, and we as fans only ever think about the football side of this. But as a coach, you can look at that recruit and say, I've been where you are. I've made that transition. And then not only did I make that transition successfully where I had a successful college career, I made that transition to the NFL. I had an NFL career, and now I find my way back to the college game where I'm a coach. That pitch offers legitimacy, and I think legitimacy is a very important thing whenever we're talking about recruiting. Because whenever we talk about recruiting, and this will be the point we end on, there are a few factors that always seem to come to the forefront whenever you really start listening. Relationships have got to be number one. If you're an institution, if you're a coaching staff that can cultivate positive relationships, you're probably going to do all right on the trail. But number two is legitimacy. If you can have a legitimate pitch, it's only going to help your chances. I think schools such as LSU, with what they've been able to do in terms of developing Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, these schools are always going to the table with a pitch that contains a ton of legitimacy, because you can look at those coaches and then look at the track record and say, yeah, they do it. This is what they do on a year-in, year-out basis. So for LSU, this is a great win. I don't think there's any understating this. Juwan Johnson is an exceptionally talented individual, and I'm actually kind of surprised to see him ranked outside the top 250 prospects in the nation. I think this is a conversation we will revisit probably around November, around December. Hold me accountable on this, because I'd be interested to see where he ends up in the high school rankings, because he is an exceptionally talented individual, and I'm also very curious to see where LSU ends up. But there is no understating. This is a big win. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.